I'm Keith Olbermann, and this is The Resistance. Merry Christmas to America from Robert Mueller. Well, it's not big enough to beat Trump's ego. Oh, I can really use this. It's Paul Manafort and a guy named Gates. Oh, wait, what's this other thing? George Papadopolous, 30, of Chicago, pleaded guilty on October 5, having made material false statements and material omissions during an interview with the FBI. Case was unsealed today. Gee, thanks. Look, I know, Manafort, it may feel a little like that Christmas that you expected a bike, but the first two gifts the folks wanted you to open consisted of a sweater and a book. And wait, what was that about George Papadopolous? George Papadopolous, 30, of Chicago, Illinois, pleaded guilty on October 5, 2017 to making false statements to FBI agents in violation of 18 U.S.C. 1001. The case was unsealed today, and a sentencing hearing will be scheduled at a later date. I'll get to Manafort. I'll get to what is actually a strategic masterpiece by Mueller. But George Papadopolous, he pleaded guilty 25 days ago, and we are only hearing about this now. He cut a deal. He's been working with Mueller's investigation for nearly a month. George Papadopolous is the small fish with the big name, the Trump foreign policy advisor who, according to the plea deal, as long ago as March 2016, was suggesting, cajoling, urging, needling, and emailing everybody he could think of in the campaign that Trump was being invited to meet with and should meet with Vladimir Putin. The plea deal goes on, stating that by April 2016, Papadopoulos emailed Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski about, quote, Putin wanting to host Trump and the team when the time is right. From his plea deal, just unsealed, Papadopoulos had, quote, interactions with an overseas professor who defendant Papadopoulos understood to have substantial connections to Russian government officials. The professor, you say? What? If there's a professor, is there also a Marianne or a Ginger? Oh wait, there actually is a Marianne or a Ginger. On or about March 24th, 2016, defendant Papadopoulos met with the professor in London. The professor brought with him a female Russian national, the, quote, female Russian national, introduced to defendant Papadopoulos as a relative of Russian President Vladimir Putin with connections to senior Russian government officials. Yeah, but this still is about Trump and Putin. This isn't about Trump and Putin and Hillary Clinton. Oh, no, wait. Actually, it is about Trump and Putin and Hillary Clinton. On or about April 26, 2016, defendant Papadopoulos met the professor for breakfast at a London hotel. During this meeting, the professor told defendant Papadopoulos that he had just returned from a trip to Moscow, where he had met with high-level Russian government officials. The professor told defendant Papadopoulos that on that trip he, the professor, learned that the Russians had obtained, quote, dirt on then-candidate Clinton. The professor told defendant Papadopoulos, as defendant Papadopoulos later described to the FBI, that, quote, they, the Russians, have dirt on her. Quote, the Russians had emails of Clinton. Quote, they have thousands of emails. This is some 6 weeks before Trump Jr. and Kushner and Manafort met with the Russian lawyer Veselnitskaya about dirt on Clinton. It's 3 months before Trump said, Russia, if you're listening, I hope you're able to find the 30,000 emails that are missing. And Papadopoulos is singing about this like a bird about the professor and Marianne and or Ginger. And then, of course, there is still Manafort. Paul Manafort, the man whose biggest connection to Trump is the campaign, who reportedly went to a mutual friend and told him, I really need to get to Trump. And the friend got him to Trump, and somehow he became manager and then chairman of the campaign. And 2 months later, he's sitting in the office in Trump Tower, listening along as the Russian lawyer who promised to deliver Russian dirt on Hillary Clinton reads Kremlin talking points to Trump Jr. and Kushner. And weeks after that, he's reportedly offering campaign updates to a Russian oligarch linked to Putin. And a week after that, Trump is apparently about to pick Chris Christie as his vice president, and Manafort lies to Trump and tells him Trump's plane has engine troubles, and while he's stuck there, he should meet with this other possible VP. And the next thing you know, Mike Pence is Trump's running mate. And days after that, Manafort is the head of Trump's campaign, as Trump's campaign is completely changing the Republican Party platform from favoring the independent rebellion in Ukraine and getting the Ukrainians missiles to fight back, to instead tacitly supporting the Russians taking over Ukraine. And now that guy is under indictment for laundering money for Ukraine and its pro-Russian leaders and politicians, $18 million of it allegedly himself, $934,000 just through one rug dealer in Virginia. The only man outside the Trump family to attend the Veselnitskaya meeting that is the wellspring for possible charges of obstruction of justice against Trump is now under indictment for conspiracy against the United States of America. The man who suddenly replaced Corey Lewandowski as the unsalaried boss of the Trump presidential campaign not long after Lewandowski dismissed that idea that Trump should meet with Putin, the idea this one kid kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And what was his name again? Oh, right, George Papadopolous, cooperating witness, living in Mueller's cage since the 5th of October. But where's this Mueller strategic masterpiece? Well, obviously, the Papadopoulos part, but maybe just as importantly, Trump is not going to stick his neck out for George Papadopoulos nor for Paul Manafort. He is not going to fire Mueller for Papadopoulos or Manafort. He's not going to overrule his lawyers who said as late as Sunday afternoon that the White House is still cooperating with Mueller for the sake of Papadopoulos or Manafort. He doesn't get it. Trump and the Trumpettes are not only already out there disparaging Manafort and minimizing his role with the campaign, but they started disparaging him in March. Sean Spicer got up at the White House press podium about Russia and said, quote, "There is a fine line between people who want to be part of something that they never had an official role in and people who actually played a role in either the campaign or the transition." And there's been this discussion of Paul Manafort, who played a very limited role for a very limited amount of time. Mueller has hit a huge target and a smaller, possibly more valuable target, and in the indictments, the name Trump isn't mentioned once. Trump can do nothing about this strategic masterpiece. Justice Department policy states clearly that you only file charges if there is a reasonable likelihood of a conviction at a trial. Yes, you might indict in an effort to force somebody to flip, looking at you, Manafort. But the baseline is this: if you indict them, you had better be able to get a jury to convict them. And in what historians will likely view as the greatest crime in American history, Bob Mueller has already bagged a Trump campaign figure who talked Clinton emails with the Russians and tried to arrange for Trump to meet Putin, and he's also indicted Paul Manafort on a charge of conspiracy against the United States of America. Oh, and there was one other tiny little gift that might be bigger than Manafort and Gates, and maybe even bigger than Papadopoulos and the professor and Marianne or Ginger. Page 23 of the indictment, statutory allegations, the first count. Number 38, the defendants Paul J. Manafort Jr. and Richard Gates III, together with others, knowingly and intentionally conspired to defraud the United States by, etc., etc. Manafort and Gates, together with others. Trick or treat. Halloween thus becomes the kind of event Winston Churchill once described as not the end, it is not even the beginning of the end, but it is perhaps the end of the beginning. In fact, Bob Mueller has given us a second present. The clear confirmation that this lovely sweater and the wonderful book in the other box, they are not going to be the only gifts Mueller gets us this year. Of course, this present is marked, "Do not open until Christmas." Resist, remove, peace. You could fill the time buying and reading my book based on these commentaries. It's not a Red Ryder BB gun, but it's actually pretty good, available with or without gift wrapping.